One day I was walking the beach, and I do a little Tai Chi practice sometimes, the 5 elements. And I brought my hands up like this, and I went open like this, and the world dropped away. And I became one with the ocean, I became one with the land around me, and I became one with everything. And the person that I am disappeared. In not a way where a kind of delusional, crazy kind of way, but in a way where I was liberated to just be present to the moment. And this incredible joy welled up in me and filled my whole being. And I walked back after a while because I was just like, wow. I was just in wow for quite a while, just taking it in, just taking the oneness with everything in, just feeling wave after wave coming through me, and feeling the air being part of me, and the land. And this land is beautiful because there's just forest up behind us. And so I walked back and I said to my wife, I said, something happened. She said, oh yeah, what? And I started telling her, and so we moved away from her computer, where she's always sitting at, it seems. And we had a long conversation. And that expanded state stayed for about a week, where everything, every place I went, I felt connected to everybody, everything. And I became curious, well, is that my natural state? Is this expanded space my natural state? And it is, which is really far out. And the other part is just a story that had been following along because I was trained in that thought, or trained in those stories, or the beliefs, or whatever. Those ran me for a very, very long time. Over the years, the journey has been that I've sorted those stories out. 12 years of Catholic school sorted out. Living in sin and guilt, worrying about heaven and hell, all that stuff got sorted out. So that wasn't me anymore. But there's still a lot of the education of life, that the misunderstanding of the education of life, or the misinterpretation, or just the best interpretation you could make, that all changed. So I found myself in this space, and I thought, well, this is curious. What does this mean? And for the next few months, and still even today, I'm still processing that. And I would call that integrating it. And I got curious about if other people have had similar experiences, and I read a couple books. One was called Awakening the West, and another one was a book put together by a TV station in England called Conscious TV, where they interview all these really people who have had awakening experiences. And I found out that nobody has the same experience. But some people speak about an experience that I could identify with. And most of them say it either happens in, no, there's not an either or in this one. It happens most likely over a gradual part of time that somebody awakens, and other times it's more of a boom, you're there. People like Eckhart Tolle had that experience where boom, he was there. And he never left that. I mean, I don't know if he never left it, but the way he tells the story, he basically was there from now. I read a story of a woman who stepped off a bus and had the same experience. As she was stepping off the bus, she went it was just like, well, what do I do next? So mine has been more like little experiences. Like, this is not my first experience. There's been little experiences where I saw things differently, where I opened up a little bit more, where I got a little more expansive. And so that's changed over time. But this experience on the beach was the most expansive experience that I've had. And I've come to appreciate that that's my natural state. I'm not always there often. The ego will respond to things, or I'll some part of my personality will raise itself up and say, no, this is who you are. No, it isn't. Yeah, okay, we have a conversation sometimes. What sorts that out for me now and integrates it more fully is that I use a journal, and almost every day I have a conversation with what I call my soul's voice, which is really what I would call also my higher self, myself as this all the time, not myself as the story or the history or any of that. That all drops away. And this voice of my soul always guides me to higher states. And since that movement out, the voice is, and I don't want it to sound like a voice in my head, because it's really not a voice in my head. It's not something that happens in the head at all, I don't think. I think I read today somebody said, John O'Donohue, who's a Irish mystic who died a few years ago, he said, the body resides in the soul, not the other way around. And when I read that this morning, I go, yeah, that's right. So this living in this expanded state or this awakened state is a process, because my soul's guidance is all the time noticing when you're in that expanded state and breathe into that, rather than focusing on how I'm not there right now. You know, like my ego could say, well, you're not, this was nothing. It could try to convince me that what happened was just some kind of weird firing in my brain. Matter of fact, science might even try to prove that it was a weird firing in my brain, but it wasn't. It was a realization of what's possible. So that's kind of my story of where I came from, or who I am this moment. And I find that changes moment to moment. I really don't know. It's like I can't put a point on who I am most of the time, because if I would say anything, I would say I'm in the space of joy. My understanding has become that the joy is what naturally arises, and love and peace naturally arise in the moment. So that's what happens when you live in the moment. You live in those kind of uplifting, because they're not even emotions, they're just natural arisings of what happens in the moment. You feel joy, you feel peace, you feel love, or whatever it is. That's what happens in the moment. That's what exists there. Anytime I go out to the future or obsess about something in the past, then that's where fear and anger and discomfort and suffering and all that stuff arises from going someplace other than here.